how has Rolling Arrays as your first job? What has it given to you? What have you learned?
Rolling Arrays being my first job, it has really given me a lot of experience. And I mean, just taking it back, right? I remember when I first joined the company, it was really interesting. Like just 1 month into the role, I was flown to Malaysia and I sat down in a project.
Welcome, Gabriel Yeo, to the Rolling Stories podcast. Today's Rolling Story is a little bit of a personal one for us at Rolling Arrays. Gabriel is one of our Singapore team and has been with the company for 4 years. And having said that, is also about to leave us and take another role, pursuing his passion in design. Today's Rolling Story, we're just going to talk a little bit with Gabriel about his experience with that first job, and that design passion that has taken him off to his next role. But first, Gabe, we were just debating before we came on air about millennials. So as a child of the early 1990s, first of all, you missed a whole decade of music there that I love, that I grew up with as a 20-something-year-old. And so then, just give us the quick backdrop then. So obviously you've grown up in Singapore, high school here. You went to university. What did you study at university?
Well, for my diploma, I did psychology, and then in uni, I actually did criminology. So pretty much an art student from the beginning, and then subsequently, I thought, that's maybe not what I want to do primarily, because from criminology, the defined career paths are like policeman, prisons officer, basically something more structured, I would think. And then I was saying, okay, maybe I'll explore a little bit outside of what I've done and what I've studied. So I found, Rolling Arrays, doing consulting. I was pretty interested in consulting at that point in time, thought it was interesting and all that. So that was what I actually tried.
Let me stop you right there. So psychology, then criminology, and then you end up in consulting. So that's a fairly eclectic mix. Now, I've certainly come across people when I first got into consulting, I was surrounded by psychologists and people with chemical engineering degrees and so forth. So if you had your time again, knowing what you know now, would you still have gone into university and done psychology and criminology? Would you still have pursued those areas?
That's a really good question, I feel. I think it's something that,
You're blushing as well, so it must be a very good question.
Yeah, correct. Because it's something that I think about now as well. Like, I think many Singaporeans, right, especially, I mean, we are a pretty privileged bunch, I feel, At that point in time, I was like, okay, criminology looked like a potential course. And, well, it sounded interesting, sounded cool. Criminology stood out to me because that was like one of the new and upcoming courses in Singapore itself. But the problem came when looking for a job was tough as well.
Wanted criminologist. Yes, I can imagine. So again, I mean, look, everybody's got regrets in life. I've certainly got a few. Would you have rather have used that 3 years on another degree, or do you think, regardless of the job opportunities that came out of it, it gave you something that another course couldn't have given?
Well, I feel that, perhaps I might have chosen something else, because I think now that I've started work, right, I think 3-4 years into my role, and I realized that, I think one thing that's really important, it's actually the connections you make and the networking, I would say. The people you engage with and the people you talk to, and basically, all the people that surround you, how that actually impacts your future path and everything.
Here I feel is the challenge for all graduates, even back for me in the late 80s. You can't find out those things until you do them, right? And that's the problem, because then that takes time, that uses up time. But getting to a point where you do know what you want to do, I think, is a good thing. And again, at your age, it's sort of late 20s as you are, not like me, it's a good time to sort of, have those experiences and know, therefore, what you want to do. And so that opens your next chapter. At your age as well, Gabe, you do have a perspective on the Singapore job market. How do you think a bunch of you guys would describe the job market? That's a very insightful thing for our customers, the HR fraternity generally, is how to work with and manage people of your generation.
Personally, I feel that the Singapore job market itself, it's very, sometimes I like to describe it as narrow, in the sense that there's not many different sorts of different paths you can potentially take just because of the market that's available in Singapore. Maybe because Singapore is in that direction, knowledge-based economy, first class country, and everybody just wants to be the banker, the finance guy, the lawyer, and it's just all these strong office corporate jobs in that sense. And every Singaporean child is brought up to think, okay, this is the right path in that sense. I think salary in that sense is not the most crucial factor these days, especially for people in my generation, I feel. Because I think the other thing that we actually really focus on is like purpose, or maybe something that interests us in that sense.
You said something very interesting then, that for you it's purpose, which suggests that yes, money is an interesting thing, and we all have medium and long-term goals, and I guess for you, aspirations for family and so forth. But as well as the money, it's about purpose. So yeah, I mean, purpose. Did you say that specifically? Is that what you meant? Right? You got to have a meaning to what you're doing.
Correct. It's like I think maybe when you're mentioning, right, could be a generational thing as well. I mean, maybe social media, how everything is being publicized and all that. People get more information, and you really get access to all sorts of different types of industries or things that people are doing. And it's like, okay, if your job, you're just doing, let's say you're selling something and you make profit for the company, and that's your only goal. It's like, okay, nothing much over there. But for example, like purpose could be in the sense that, you're selling something and you are maybe contributing to like what you mentioned just now, sustainability, and you're like saving the world, reducing carbon emissions. Maybe that has just been something that came about more in the recent years, I feel, whereby people actually realize that, hey, maybe these are some things that could sort of solidify my presence at work.
So okay, so you go through university, you do your army time, as we know happens in Singapore, and then Rolling Arrays is your first job. So tell us a little bit about the nature of the work that you've been doing, and I guess maybe how has Rolling Arrays as your first job, what has it given to you? What have you learned?
Rolling Arrays being my first job, it has really given me a lot of experience. And I mean, just taking it back, right, I remember when I first joined the company, it was really interesting. Like just 1 month into the role, I was flown to Malaysia and I sat down in a project. My project manager or the lead was actually late for that particular session. Customer was looking at us. We were just doing some random presentations about content we did not really know about. And well, it was just like mind blowing at that point in time. We just didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to do as well. And subsequently, when I talked a little bit more with the team, I actually got to know Manu himself, because I was actually recruited to join the solutions team itself to focus more on pre-sales. So that's a little bit straddling between the delivery team and the sales team itself. And that really changed, I would say, my path in Rolling Arrays. When I look back, it's like, I feel so different in that sense, whereby I do a demonstration or presentation really easily nowadays. And I feel that, in general, not just during work itself, that overall confidence has really been built up over the last 3-4 years with Rolling Arrays in that sense, because I think Manu has constantly been encouraging me as well, giving me the content, giving me the avenue, giving me the opportunities to actually express myself in that sense. Yeah. And I mean, there's just a lot of things that I've learned from Rolling Arrays itself, the whole experience, because I think one thing that's really different is that hierarchy is pretty flat, I would say. And well, there's a lot of different avenues and a lot of opportunities in Rolling Arrays itself. And through this time, I've been exposed to some project management. I've been exposed to account management. I've been exposed to delivering, sometimes consulting, and then definitely, of course, my job role being pre-sales. There's been primarily been doing presentations, demonstrations, participating in tenders, RFPs, and all that. So I mean, honestly, I feel that this role in Rolling Arrays has really opened up my mind to what the corporate world is like in that sense.
I agree. I mean, that kind of experience doesn't come along every day. And as you said, if you're in a department in a bigger company, it's easy to get drowned. Okay, any sort of like super highlights from the last 4 years, given the background that you just said and the varied work? Any particular highlights stand out for you?
Well, I think I would say a particular highlight would definitely be one of the times when I think very early in my career. I like I mentioned, the first time I was flown to Malaysia to actually participate in a workshop. That was, I think, a subtle highlight. And then subsequently, what actually happened next was sort of like a presentation, a proposal presentation to a customer was actually scheduled sometime in Malaysia as well. That was, I think, 1 year into my career. And then my supervisor, Gerald, actually, he at the last minute, I think just a day before, his visa was not approved or something, and he couldn't fly. And then, oh, I was the only one left. Right? I was the only one who could fly at that point in time. And suddenly, I became the main presenter. I would say that's a highlight because it really trusted me into whatever I needed to do. And after that presentation that I did myself in Malaysia, actually, then that sort of built up a lot of confidence in myself, and I did better presentations moving forward.
But Gabriel, I think what you've also unknowingly tripped across there is what I would say is resilience, right? Because there are plenty of people who would have been thrust into that same situation who would have not coped with it very well. Without being too specific about your next employer, but you are going into I guess a design consultancy. Would I be right in describing
Correct.
it like
Yeah.
that? Okay,
Yes.
so tell us then about this design desire, if I might say, that you have had. When did you realize that you wanted to do this kind of stuff?
Yeah. So yeah, the story is interesting as well. So it actually started when I did my psychology diploma. That was, I think, 10, 12 years back. And at that point in time, it was called human factor psychology, ergonomics, basically. That was one of the modules I took. And I had a project to actually redesign the public bus experience. So I think, when people get on the public buses, typically people just crowd at the front or the middle area because that's the exit. So everybody would be standing there, and the bus driver would go, "Hey, move to the back, move to the back, move to the back," and then people are just not moving to the back. Everybody's packing in the middle, and just gets really congested there. And one of my first projects during that module was to actually redesign that experience, maybe the sitting and standing arrangements, and how you actually change the whole environment in that certain environment itself. So that was really interesting to me at that time. I really liked it and enjoyed that module. And interestingly, as well, when I joined Rolling a Race, that actually opened up something else for me because, well, I had a first presentation when I was a junior consultant. So we were all tasked to present different things from different topics. And the topic I was assigned was actually UX versus UI design. What's the difference? And so I did my research. I was like, okay, you mean there's a difference between UI and user experience being UX? And well, that through the research I found out a lot as well. And subsequently I took up more reading. I took up some courses in the subject matter itself. So I think just this whole user experience sort of design concept has really struck on with me. I mean, I do enjoy. I think it's really interesting, and being in now this potential new role, which is more of a consultancy focusing in design, it's it could be mobile experiences, technological experiences that people engage with, whether it's the mobile app they use, whether it's a certain product they actually engage with, or it could be things like, a certain process in the company, organization, a certain policy that's being designed, and a certain policy that's being pushed out to people, and how they actually would react to it, or how they feel, how they understand it, how they see it, how they behave, and
So I agree with you. Well, two things about your next move that resonate with me. First of all, I'm a big fan of pursuing a passion. I think it's pointless for an employer and an employee to just plod along. It doesn't help for the mental health of those people and just the effort and enthusiasm on both sides. So the second thing is, as we get more into more and more into technology and we start to talk about AI and robotics and whatever, I don't know what you think, but my son likes design as well, and I kind of think design will be one of the last jobs to be replaced by artificial intelligence. So in that respect, full marks as well for pursuing that career path. I mean, I don't know. I guess you feel the same way then.
Yeah, I mean, I actually do feel that, like, a lot of future is there as well. I think in terms of design and how it's being expanded to all these different areas as well. And I think definitely, one thing that's coming up is also designing for inclusiveness, like, including people of disabilities or other sort of scenarios and everything. So that's really interesting for me. And I mean, I don't think I'll see all these in my next job itself. I don't think I can see every single aspect of what I can potentially design for in just the next role. And I think there's a whole long path ahead of me to actually explore.
Well, yeah, and just the other side of 50 as I am, I have to say it's all ahead of you. But again, at your stage in life, you can still make mistakes, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean learning from doing is a real fundamental thing. Good luck in the future, and I know clearly you're not moving out of Singapore. No one's moving out of anywhere at the moment. But and I'm sure we'll catch up. But good luck. I mean that from the heart, and I'm sure we'll catch up later in the year.
Yep. Thank you, Philip.